I ran out of gas to heat my water up, so I was eating cold rations. I was about 1,000 miles in, and I was just like, oh, if I get really ill now, like, what can I do? I'm dead. Like, that's all you do. You're only eating, rowing, and sleeping.
Experience Real Podcast.
Gareth, thanks for coming in, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me up.
Yeah, I've seen you on Instagram and I've seen everything you're up to, and I thought, Jesus, I got to get down and talk to this man. Like, he's insane, I was thinking, to be honest.
That seems to be the general consensus, I think. That's probably been the first comment everyone said over the last couple of years, really. But.
Yeah. So to give a bit of like context, people, you solo rode the Atlantic. Is it 3,000 miles?
Yeah. So just came back. Was a couple of days ago. So I arrived on the 1st of February over to Antigua after setting off on 12th of December. So 51 days at sea, basically.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself stimulated when you're out there? How do you keep yourself like in the zone for 51 days?
I think that's the hardest bit. I think the physical side of it is one thing, and it's like I just trained for kind of 2 years leading up to it, but you very quickly realise after a few days that you can't really train for 50 days of exercise no matter what you do. Like, yeah. I think you can train to get yourself fit for the first few days and kind of injury proof yourself, but it very quickly becomes a mental game of just trying to get yourself going. Originally I signed up to do it a year before.
Yeah.
And I just had an absolute like nightmare of a year, and I just wasn't in a good place for doing it. So I just moved it on a year, like funding and life and everything had got in the way. I signed up. I first had the idea like December 2018. It's hard to put my finger on where the idea came from, but I had the idea. I was just like a bit of a low point in life. It was December in Wales, and I was just like,
it can get you down.
Yeah, getting down, and I was just kind of like, work was fine, and like everything in life was fine. There's just no real reason for feeling miserable. I was just a bit miserable and needed something as a focus. I could feel if I didn't have anything to focus on, I was just going to keep going downhill. So I was just browsing YouTube one day, and I saw a video of the boys, Jason Fox and the Aldo Kane and a few of the Marines. They'd done a crossing, and they'd ended up in, I think they went from Portugal to Venezuela, so they did an even longer crossing. But I saw them finish, and I was like, oh, I could have a go at that. That seems like a suitable challenge. And the idea was born there, and I just started training quietly without telling anyone. And then in the April, I signed up, and within I think it was within 3 or 4 months of signing up, I'd broken up with my long-term girlfriend. One of my best mates passed away, and my sister like lost her baby really young. Shit, and I was just like none of it was like directly like awful stuff. It was for those guys, but I felt like I shouldn't be feeling bad about it. But it just threw me mentally. So I was thought I don't want to be out on my own at sea for 50 days.
That's fair enough. Yeah, with all them thoughts festering.
Yeah, and I was like really struggling with the funding side of things. It's cost to get to this point of leaving. You're like best part of 100 grand by the time you got the boat and all the logistics and everything covered. And that was all through corporate sponsors. I didn't have any like personal money to put into it like a lot of people do. I'd underestimate the whole thing basically. I tried to do it in 6 months, and it's not possible to do it in 6 months.
Yeah, well, that's a massive amount of funding.
Yeah,
I suppose you just need to be rallying around people and like building up a hype for it for a long time, don't you? Yeah,
and it was just, I think you think in your head, you have these ideas and you're like, oh, I'll just go and jump in a boat and I'll row across the Atlantic. It's easy. But there's just the logistics of making it all happen have just been so. I almost think that was harder than the row itself, was actually getting to the start line. Yeah, and everyone does say that is the first major hurdle, is actually getting yourself off the line. But yeah, I think that was the first bit that took the mental drive to keep going. And then I almost felt, by the time I left, the week leading up to the start, I was just like in the game. Yeah. So I didn't really struggle mentally out there at all. I was just so focused, and then I got into, there was me and one other lad were just pushing each other all the way, and he beat me in the end. But we were just pushing each other. When we got to the other side, we were just like, fucking nightmare. Are we pushing each other that much or not?
I bet you got a hell of a bond with him though. Did you?
Yeah. There's 3 of us really. There's 3 of us all pushing. So there was there's 9 people in total doing it on their own, which is like unheard of. There's normally like 1 or 2 do it on their own, and there's loads of 4-man teams at the same time. So we all had a really good bond, and you all meet out in La Gomera, just off Tenerife before you go. So we had like a week together, and everyone's like rallying each other up. But I think we kind of knew the three of us were going to push each other all the way. And then
Yeah.
as soon as we went out, we all just went off in different directions. And we were just like, it just depends. The weather has such a big like factor as to how fast you go and where you come in the. It's not really a race, but it's more of a challenge. But as to where you come in the fleet, it's all weather dependent. And I didn't really realize that at the start. I've just been training flat out, thinking, I just row hard, and then it's just so frustrating because you just
push you back.
hit by weather, yeah, and you can't do anything about it. You just got to keep on trying to push through. And those are the mentally toughest days, I think. Just when I had some days. I think the worst day I had was I did 12 miles in 24 hours, which you could walk a lot more than that, can you?
Yeah, I'm looking at I broke down an average. It would be to do it in the 51 days. It's 57 miles or 60 miles a day, innit? So to do 12 miles in the one day, you got a lot of making up to do.
Yeah, it was a hell of a lot of making up to do. And 57 miles in a day, if you row, if we went and sat on a row machine, that's a lot. 57 miles, it's just day after day after day. But you do have a bit of wind assistance behind you normally. We just had this section in the middle. I think it was 3.5, 4 weeks in the end where it was just against us. It was like rowing on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I wanted to do it. I had loads of goals. I didn't achieve any of the goals so far. I guess I got the main one of crossing. But
you finished, yeah.
First goal was obviously to get across. The second goal was to do it in less than 45 days, which is a super quick time. So I was a few days outside. Those 51 days in the end, and then
it's hell of an achievement, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean
that's
what everyone keeps saying to me. You're being quite hard on yourself. I was like, yeah, I just had a few goals and I wanted to get them all. But yeah, and then the next one I wanted to be the first solo back, and then the last one I wanted to raise 100 grand. But we've just ticked over about 60 grand, so I'm on the way to that. We're still fundraising, so I might achieve the last goal. And the main one is getting to the other side safely, which is probably a big achievement in itself.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think with a fundraising, it's just getting eyes on it, isn't it? It's getting people to see what you've done and
massively, yeah,
understanding why. So could we go into a bit of the why you've chose the charities you've chosen? Well, which ones you've chosen? You've gone for two, haven't you?
Well, the MS Society is the one I've been raising money for, and then kind of late on in the campaign, I've been calling it, signed up working with Get the Boys a Lift, a charity down in Pembrokeshire, which is a mental health charity. A bunch of lads I've known through life, and just Pembrokeshire's a small place, everyone knows each other. They've set up this charity where it all started as a bit of a hitchhiking thing. They'd all go out, and unfortunately, the story behind it was one of their good mates committed suicide, and then they set up this charity around that. Go out hitchhike just to prove the fact that there's always someone there to give you a lift.
Yeah,
and they would go around. They just had this mad challenge where they go around the whole of the UK, and they had certain places they had to get to hitchhiking, and they made a huge documentary. They got a massive following now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they've got a little coffee shop, and they do a clothing range. They've become a bit of a cult following in Pembrokeshire and further afield. Everyone's wearing the gear everywhere, and they've done
I'll definitely have to check them out.
Sounds
cool.
Yeah, so check them out. And they're a really good group of lads. They just post just hilarious stuff all the time. They don't take themselves very seriously, but through their fundraise, through the coffee shop and through the clothing, they've got coffee shop upstairs and downstairs. There's counselling offices. They offer free counselling sessions, drop-in sessions for anyone who wants to come in and chat. And it's been the uptake's been mad, and all the businesses in Pembrokeshire, loads and loads of people are supporting them, and they've been they've done a cracking job.
It's great hearing people doing good things like that, innit?
And they're having a laugh doing it as well. So
that's the main thing.
But the message behind it is a really good one, and the work they do is awesome. And they're raising tons and tons of money.
Class.
Yeah, and then the MS Society was just. So I first signed up. I was looking for a charity. I wanted a charity that I could make a difference to. A lot of people were doing it for cancer research and stuff, and obviously the work they do is amazing, but they raise millions and millions a year.
Yeah.
And I wanted something where if I could raise 100 grand, it would make a noticeable difference. So I knew a few close family and friends had MS, or had friends that had MS, and then there's a few people in the local village as well. So I thought that was when I started looking into it, and then I got in touch with the MS Society Wales, and they kind of just embraced me instantly as part of the community, and they would just throwing help my way, and I just was it's a perfect charity to do it for. And then all the way through there, they've been in touch with me. I've been to all their events. And
cool. I suppose because they're a bit more close-knit or whatever than the cancer research. Cancer research, like you said, they're raising millions.
Yeah, it's huge.
They're probably not going to interact with you or give you as much support, are they?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think they just... and they just thought it was a bit of a mad idea. I talked to Sian, the lady I've been dealing with, who's the rep for Wales the other day.
Yeah.
And she was like, even when you set off, I still didn't think it was a real idea.
didn't think it was going to be possible.
No, when I set off, we'd only I'd got all the corporate sponsorship to like make it all happen, and a lot of that's going to come back now when I sell on the boat and the equipment and stuff, and we'll recoup a lot of that money for charity. But up until that point, I'd only raised like 10 grand online, and it just went mad while I was out there. I had a little team back at home. My girlfriend and one of my good mates did all the like social media coverage and all, and they just did a mad job while I was away. They were in lockdown, so they were just like, just embraced it. And
yeah, it's class,
I hit the shore at the other side, and it was at 40 grand. I
bet that was amazing. Do you have any idea as you were going on where it was at?
I kind of got updates, yeah, and every time it hit 5 grand, I said, let me know how it's going, because then it was good motivation as I got out there, and I was having messages all the time from people. And that was like one of the big things that kept me going, was like, they'd say, someone's just donated 5 grand or something. I was like, fucking, I better get my arse.
Yeah, I can't quit now. Yeah. Mate, that's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because me and my cousin did like a 50-mile run and last year, and that was like one of the biggest motivations was us. Don't get me wrong, we raised like £1,000, but it was still like, we can't not finish now. Do you know what I mean? There's no option. We've got to do it.
It becomes one of your main motivations, doesn't it? The thought of what everyone else is like, not necessarily thinking, but all these people behind you, and you don't want to let them down. You're just like...
Exactly. Like, and in my head, I've got it like, if we don't finish, they're paid money for something that we haven't given them. Yeah. So it's like a service. Like, I'm treating it like that. And I'm like, if I don't do it, then I feel like I've got to pay all this money. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do, don't you? You feel... I think that was a lot of the... Like, leading up to it, that was a lot of the pressure, like, from all the sponsors and all. And I was like... I wish I had the money to just pay for it myself. I didn't have any money. I was just like, from all the sponsors, and you feel like, I've got to deliver all these things while I'm out on the water. I've got to do all these promotions and everything. And I found that so much more stressful than the actual getting up and rowing every day. Simple. You just got to drive yourself and kind of get your muscles working and have a bit of food, have a bit of drink. It's like not easy. It's like hard physically, but mentally you haven't got to think about much.
No, it's like, the task at hand.
Yeah, it's the build up before that I found way more stressful. And I think... no one really realizes that. I think no one sees the 2 years prep beforehand, or like 6 days a week of training and all that stuff. It's like, I'm trying to fit it around a full-time job as well. Yeah. It's just
So 2 years before you decided you were going to do it, at that point, have you ever done any rowing before that?
Well, I did when I was 16. I did a 6-week. There was a 6-week challenge down in like around the local villages, and someone signed me up, and I was massively against the idea, and I hated every second, so I don't know why. I
don't know where the inspiration come from.
Yeah, we did as a bit of a family unit. My sister and my dad borrowed. My uncle's got a sailing boat. My sister and my dad borrowed it, and they were like, we want to sail to the Caribbean. So they just came up with the idea in the pub one night. They were just like, my sister was like, I'm fed up of work. I want to take a bit of time off. Like, where can we go? And my dad was like, we just sail somewhere. We borrow Mike's boat. And he sailed down the coast of France and Portugal, and then down to the Canaries, and then they sailed to the Caribbean and she literally just quit work and just went to the Caribbean.
That's awesome.
So I, very last minute, I was like, I'll go and jump on. So I jumped on for the crossing across the Atlantic that first time, but that was a very different experience. That was like, it was a decent boat, and it was like, only took 23 days. I thought that was forever at the time, but now I think if I went back and did it now, I'd love every second. I'd just embrace it. But they, while we were out there then, I was like looking out to sea, and I'd never really heard of anyone rowing it, but I was like, I'd like to do this again, but like as more of a challenge. It didn't feel very challenging because you were just sitting there letting the boat do the work. And then I think that's kind of stuck in my head ever since. And when I saw the video, I think the two linked together, and then I was like,
it's a crazy challenge, mate. It's crazy. Like when I seen it, I was like, I don't know what this bloke's up to, but I think it's great though. Do you know what I mean? You're doing it for the right reasons and stuff, and there is something about it, because every time I see a challenge, I think, like doing that 50 miles, it's just something.
It's that thing in your head, isn't it? That mental challenge.
Once you've told yourself, like, I'm going to do that one day, it's hard to take it away, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely used it as like I know it's promoting the Get the Boys a Lift thing as well, but used it as like a mental health healer for myself. Yeah, just like I was in a really shit place that December when I was looking at the videos, and I could not get out of it. And then after that, like I say, the April, all those things happened, and I got in a really, really bad place. And I think without that, when I'd signed up, I hadn't planned it to be my focus in that sense. Yeah. But it quickly became the only focus I had that was keeping me like sane, almost.
Light at your end of your tunnel.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
And I think, especially when then the lockdown kicked in as well, I was like, if I can actually make this happen at the end of the lockdown, I've got something to focus on when everyone else is looking at going into a miserable winter, and I'm just like, I think I'd have really struggled if I hadn't had that over that last year. So there was a lot of times when I was like, I really wish I hadn't signed up to this.
I was going to say, like, as you're going along, was there a time where you think, like, oh, I wish I just didn't bother with this?
Yeah, never when I was out in the water.
No?
Like, once I was there, but the 2 years building up, there was so many days where I was just like, what am I doing? I was in massive debt. Like, I just, like, owed so many people so many favours, and all these sponsors had lent me money to do all this, and I was just like, I'm in a mess.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all come together, though.
Yeah, and it all comes together, but it doesn't come together until, like, a few weeks before, and then it all seems to come together really quick. But up until that point, I'd say it's definitely the most stressed I've been. It's like trying to make it happen.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, I bet it's like freedom then the second you're out in it. It's like,
As soon as you leave that harbour, yeah, you're just like, I'm gone. I'm not turning around.
You're staying on the boat day and night for the whole time.
Yeah. So
How many hours a day are you rowing? Like,
I was trying to row. It was weird because you have your plan before you leave, and as soon as you hit the water, as soon as you disappear outside of land, that whole plan just goes out the window, and you just like your body doesn't necessarily do what you think it's going to. You've got to do as part of I signed up to do it as part of a challenge, so there's other boats doing it at the same time. So you've got to do like a qualifying few hours. So you haven't got to do that much. You've got to do 100 hours, which you can do in a couple of weekends, just to prove that you know how everything on the boat works, basically, before they set you off and say, crack on.
good luck.
But but it's an unsupported row, so you've got to take everything with you. You've got to, once you leave, you're not allowed any help until you get to the other side, basically. So I think, it was just, once you leave, as a 4-man team, you're doing like 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And even the same as a 2-man team, you're just swapping between you. But on your own, you're just trying to manage which direction you're going while you're resting. So when we left, we had a few good days of wind that kind of took us down. It was light, but it was like if you wanted to rest, you could stop for an hour or two, whatever you needed.
Yeah.
But I set off thinking, I'm going to do 3 hours on and then have an hour off and just do that all the way through until I get tired. So for the first 3 days, I rode for I think the adrenaline was keeping me going. I did like 22 hours. I was like, had no sleep at all.
That's
just
mental.
going through. Yeah, but it was probably a bit too much, I think. I was just like, I wanted to get clear of the land and clear of all the guys behind me. I got like a really good lead in the first couple of weeks. And then the wind dropped off and it was really, really hot. And I was pushing, trying to get more and more of a lead. And I just hit an absolute wall, and it was just like, I had a day where I was just lying on the deck for like half an hour. As soon as I woke up, I did a bit of a row, and I was like, I feel really rough. And I just was like, I'll have a quick lie down. For like half an hour, I was like, I might have fucked it here.
I've gone in too hard.
I'm in a really, really bad way. But I think I just nailed a load of water down. I think I just had a bit of heat stroke or a bit of like dehydration.
Yeah.
I tried to settle in into a rhythm. I was trying to row like 16 to 18 hours a day. So I'd try and do 3 hours on. From sunrise to sunset, I'd do 3 hours on, an hour off. And then I'd keep that going through the night until about 4 a.m. and then I try and get 4 hours sleep. But you can only sleep for an hour because you need to wake up and kind of check for ships and check that you're going in the right direction and stuff. So I try and get like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. seemed to be a good little block to sleep. A lot of people did it. They do 2 hours on, 2 hours off and try and sleep in the gaps. But I found that like really disruptive. You're tired a lot more then because you're like constantly trying to get little bits of sleep instead of trying to get a bit of a block. So my body seemed to work better getting a short block of sleep than it did.
Yeah, they reckon like when you're sleeping in it, unless you're getting like your full cycle.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to bed at like, I don't know, 12 at night, you wake up at 6 in the morning, you feel great. You go back to bed for an hour and you wreck.
Yeah, you're rough as hell, aren't you?
Yeah, somehow you think that extra hour should help you.
Yeah.
They reckon unless you get your full cycle, it's just actually, you're better off staying in there until 12 in the afternoon.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I tried a few different things. And I found one night I was just like absolutely shattered after a few hard days in a row. And I slept for a 4-hour block without waking up. And when I woke up, I felt so much worse than waking up every hour.
Yeah.
So after that, I just said, like, every hour, wake up, just give yourself, like, even just a little stretch. And I think it was almost like your body never gets a chance to properly rest then. When I had that 4-hour block in a go, my body must have started, I don't know whether it started repairing or started shutting down or whatever it was. But when I woke up, everything was aching, and it was just so much harder to get back on it. So it was
you kind of want to keep in the zone of exercising all the time, rather
definitely.
than going into recovery.
I think no matter how much you train, like you do as much in the gym as you want, and then you can do as much out on the water as you want. But you're always training around here. You're always off the coast. You can always go back in. Like, there's no way to really train for 50 days of exercising. Like, because until you do it, like, you're never going to do 18 hours of training a day for 50 days at home with you. So
no, because you're always thinking about, I need to go home and do that now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just never have the mental concentration.
Yeah, and I think the mental preparation for it as well. Everyone's like, how are you training for it? And I'm like, don't know, how do you train for 50 days on your own?
Yeah, you
there's
don't
no way to
do.
train, is it? It's just...
it's even like people who do marathons and stuff. They never actually go out and run 26 miles, really,
No,
do they,
do they?
beforehand? They always just prepare to what they think is their best, or what seems feasible. And then you kind of get, like, I would imagine, it's a bit different doing 50 days, mine, to like a marathon, but you probably get like a spurt, don't you? Like you exceed what you ever believed you could do, I would imagine.
Oh, definitely. I think the other thing with it was you kind of feel like when everyone's talking about it and when you're researching it and all that, you've got to be rowing flat out all the time. You could get across eventually if you just rowed a few hours a day. It could just take you a couple 100 days as well.
Yeah.
So it's that thing of like, especially because you're on your own. If you're as a team, I think if you're all pushing each other, and when someone's tired, someone else is like, look, it's your shift, you got to get on it. But when you're on your own, you're just like, you wake up after an hour's sleep and you're like, I don't have to row.
Yeah. There's no one holding me accountable here.
No, like I could have an hour break, and also that I think that was like trying to motivate yourself to keep going. I had that. I'm glad I set a goal of like how long I wanted it to take beforehand, because that kept me going. And like having the other boys around me, there was the lad who was behind me was like pushing all the time, so that was keeping me going. And I was constantly trying to catch up on the guy that was ahead of me. So I think without that, if you weren't being competitive, you could end up taking so long, because it'd be a really enjoyable, like it was enjoyable anyway, a lot of it, but it would be a much more enjoyable experience if you were just like, some dolphins, have a nice little time and have a bit of food and then get back on it for a bit.
Do you miss it now, like being home in a weird way?
Yeah, kinda. Like I was saying to you before, I thought I'm really social when I'm at home. I see people all the time, and I'm just like in the pub or down the beach or whatever it is, and in work with loads of people. So I thought as soon as I get out there, I'd find it really weird and I'd miss people. And within I thought I'd find my phone weird as well. My phone rings all the time. It's always busy. And I thought, I'd really struggle with that. I had like 6 hours on the water. I was like, well into this.
Yeah. This is me.
And I was just so happy. Like I did think after about a month, I was like, I wouldn't mind seeing people a bit. But I had a satellite phone with me. I could talk to people at home if I wanted to. And I was talking to my dad every day for weather updates and stuff. He was he's big into his weather routine and stuff. Yeah. So he was trying to give me the best info. So it was like, I didn't feel like I was completely out of contact, but I felt like I was nicely out of contact. Like I could just, once I turned the sat phone off, no one on Earth, you couldn't be any further than anywhere else on Earth, I don't think.
Crazy, isn't
it? It was just, it's a weird feeling because you feel like super vulnerable because the boat is tiny. It's like being on a bucking Bronco. It doesn't stop moving all the time. A lot of it's frustrating, but yeah, the feeling of just being like that far away and you just feel like proper in nature.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, but it's awesome. I just...
you feel more yourself than ever, like after doing that experience?
Yeah, it was like it's like a mental clarity, I think, was probably the weirdest way to think of it. It was, especially because the 2 years before were so stressful. I think that arrival day in Antigua, when you do the whole flares bit and you get your first meal and your first beer on shore and all this, it's mad, but it doesn't feel like the end of 50 days. It feels like the end of 2 years. So it's just like you feel the weight lifting off your shoulders as you get there, and then like you've done it for all the sponsors and you've raised all the money you planned to raise, and then all that kind of stuff. It's a weird feeling to match, though. That's going to be the thing now. It's like, how do you how do you match that again?
You see it with lots of athletes and stuff, fighters and everything. Once they've done their fight, they become the world champion or whatever.
Yeah, where'd you go?
Their career's over. Like, they kind of it's trying to figure out what's next for you now, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I was conscious of that before because I was like, I know now it's been so full on for the last couple of years with the whole campaign and then the whole row itself and all. I was like, I know I'm going to be like really flat when I get to the other side. So I was like, right, Antigua, I'll reply to like a few messages and anyone that's been like supporting me. And I tried to reply to like all the like well wishes and stuff. I still got loads of people to get back to, but a month down the line. But I said, like, I'm not going to do any work, like proper work till I get back. Enjoy 10 days in Antigua. Let your body kind of relax a bit. So I just embraced that probably more than I've ever embraced a holiday before. I'm normally terrible at going on holiday. I need to be active all the time, but I just sat by the pool and
awesome.
Just ate some good food instead of dehydrated ration packs. And that was really nice. And then I've said now, right, give myself at least 6 months, kind of catch up on life again. Like life's almost been on hold for 2 years just because every bit of spare time I've had has gone towards this. So I just need to catch up a bit and actually like give myself a break.
Yeah. So what do you do as a day job, if you don't mind asking?
It's our family company, really. It's my granddad started it years and years ago. It's started off as just a little boat shed down in the village where I live, and he just have a boat in the winter and like do it up. And now over the last few years, I've been working there for all my life really, but I've only taken over in the last kind of 5 or 6 years. When my dad sailed off to the Caribbean.
Yeah, he left it all with you.
Yeah, but that was it's a really nice business. So now we do everything like marine based. We got a little boatyard down in Naylor Marina, down in Pems, and we got like the main side of it is tourism boat trips. So we do boat trips out to Skomer Island and the islands down off the coast. Cool. There. So that took a huge hit last year. Like we didn't do any trips for pretty much the whole season for the whole COVID thing. So it was like an added stress on top of everything. Yeah. So like the income almost like completely stopped. So we had all of our staff were off furloughed, and there was only like me and my dad came back to like full-time work to kind of help out, and there was me and like 4 other boys just trying to do what we could. And there's a few bits of the business that are like we work in like the oil terminals down there, and we've been lucky enough that we got a few different avenues of the business that we could keep going. But
it's tough times, isn't it?
Tough times for everyone, isn't it? I feel lucky that we've had, over the last few years, we've always had the thought that try not to have our eggs all in one basket. So we have, over the last few years, diversified a bit, and then that's like it all kind of paid off this year then. So it just kept us going. Like it still took a huge hit, but it just kept us going. It meant that the company actually survived. Which
I'm glad as well.
Very likely for a long
tourism,
time.
like. Well, I do genuinely believe it will bounce back, because I think people are so sick of it. Do you know what I mean?
It's going to go mad when it bounces back, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think you're not going to be able to control people. They're going to be everywhere, aren't they?
That's going to be,
Which is great. Like, in my opinion, I can't wait for it.
Yeah. I'm really, really looking forward to it now. I'm just, like, it's one of those things that's just become harder to manage now as well, isn't it? Everything you were doing before has had to change, and it's like
every time you think about doing something, I'd like to do that. Wait, nah, can't do that.
Yeah, that's it, innit?
And it's like seems to be. I thought I would have learned by now what I can and can't do because of it all, but I just keep forgetting.
Changes all the time, doesn't it?
Every time I think about something, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, well, we feel really lucky because we managed to come through it, but like for the first couple of months, we were just thinking, that's like you work. Everyone's worked, like my dad and my granddad and all, it's been going since the 60s, and we were like, that's the end of it. Like, it can't survive this.
Yeah.
And then, I just felt lucky. The government did quite a good job of supporting, like everyone said they could have done better, but they did really well for us. We couldn't complain. Like, they kept us going. So
yeah, it's keeping like the staff furloughed and all that.
That's
as well,
the thing. Yeah, like I know everyone gives them a hard time, and there's always stuff you could look back that could have been done better, isn't there? But like, yeah, I can't complain about anything because we managed to keep going through it, and we wouldn't have done that without all that help. So
yeah.
It was,
and in a weird way, I expect to give you a bit more time then to get on the the training for the challenge.
Kind of did. It was a bit weird though because they closed down like the waterway, like where I've been training. So I got one training session in March, and then the Haven went into lockdown. So it was there goes the training.
Yeah.
But then work got so busy anyway because we were just trying to like hold on to what we had. That I kind of didn't do anything with it for a couple of months. I just put it all on hold and just said like concentrate on keeping the business going. You've got all these staff kind of dependent on you.
Yeah.
So, I had to take priority, and then I thought I'd just see how it went, and then when things started getting a bit better towards the season, or towards like the summer season, I thought, all right, we've come through the worst of it. Like I can get back on the training, and then it was just, it was weird. It was just everyone was. You shouldn't be doing this event. You shouldn't be traveling. All this. And
was it getting a bit of COVID grief?
Yeah. There's a lot of COVID grief, but I was just like, I'm going to be on my own for 50 days out at sea. I'm not really putting many people at risk. And the event organisers they'd been through all the government, and they'd put so many systems in place. I think end up spending like over $1,000 on COVID tests just trying to get there.
It's probably a bit of jealousy there from people, like, and they're a bit like, how can you be going and doing this?
Yeah, I think especially when people see you end up in Antigua and you're like
living the dream out there.
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend got a load of grief off people from going out there, saying, you should be traveling, and she's like I'm the only one going, because we were going to have a whole team of people coming out to like have a reception, and people were giving her loads of shit online, like you shouldn't be traveling. She's like, he's got no clothes, he's got no passport, he's got no money.
Yeah.
Someone's got to go and meet him. And I was just like, you feel helpless when you're out on the ocean. She's telling me all this, everyone's giving her a hard time, and I was like, people are mad, aren't they? Just
some people like just do what you can do to sort yourself out if you're that worried about it. And
exactly,
chances are they've probably done something they shouldn't have done. I think everyone's done. Mission of guilt. Everyone's done something they shouldn't be doing during this time.
Like, not telling the truth, are they? No one's followed every guideline all the way through.
At some point, someone's popped round someone's house to like see them or check on them or whatever in it. So
I think it's just like you say, it's just a bit of seeing pictures of her out in the sun. Probably were
a bit
not what they wanted
jealousy,
to see in the middle of January, was it? But
but you just got to get over that, innit?
That's it. Yeah, you just got to do what you do.
6 months, hopefully everyone can do it. Like,
and I said we raised so far. We raised over like 60 grand for charity, and hopefully we'll get towards the 100 grand mark. And it's like, I don't feel like that's a bad cause, really. To
look at the positive rather than a negative.
Yeah, instead of saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be going on holiday," say, "Oh, well done, you've managed to do this in such a tough time and still keep it all going," isn't it? But
and chances are, like, you and your missus are young and fit, and you're probably gonna not get it more than like a cold.
No, where we live, like, there's a tiny little village. Probably didn't see anyone for 2 months before I left. Yeah, it was just it's a very seasonal village. We just I say the risk is fairly minimal. You're at more risk, obviously, of traveling when you go through the airport, aren't you? But then you've got to do all the. We came back and had to do the whole isolating thing, and we did a couple of COVID tests before we even left the house. So it's like, what else can you do, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And once I was in the middle, the second lockdown didn't happen until I'd left. So it was like, I can't change my mind now. I'm already gone.
That's it. And you could get it in Morrison's. Like, I'm not being funny. Can you go to Tesco and get it? Chances are probably more likely to get it there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Antigua was like, I don't know. The cases in Antigua were nothing compared to Wales. I think there was like 30 cases in the whole island.
Really? Yeah.
And that was from people flying in. So it was like, Anyway, I wasn't too worried what people were saying at that point.
That's it. I suppose though you'd had like such a break from it, being off your phone and everything. I expect it was great. Like, I think that's what everyone needs to do. I think if they turn their phone off and took themselves away from the news, their stress levels would go down like massively.
Oh, massively. I said that when I came back. Everyone says, like, what's the main thing you've taken from it? I said, if I could just say to everyone, maybe not row across an ocean, but like, you just go off for a few days on your own and like into the woods or whatever you want to do. Just like turn your phone off and just have some time on your own. It's like, it's liberating, I think, is the best way to put it. It's just so nice. And coming back then, I've just been like trying to make a conscious effort not to get back into just being on my phone all the time. But it's like, it's hard, isn't it?
I think
it's
so.
Just everything's just at the touch of a button. You just got to try and make a conscious effort not to do it. But it's
and you convince yourself you need to do it because of this. You need to do it because of that. Like I have a couple of days off, like I was saying to you before, and I convinced myself I need to be on this. I need to post this. I need to do that. I want to like keep growing the social media, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, fucking hell, it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't, does it? No.
It doesn't mean anything. Like,
no, it doesn't at all. Like, you don't post anything for a few weeks. No one notices it. Like,
no, they don't care.
People only notice when you post. No one cares when you're not posting.
No, exactly. They're looking at something else, aren't they?
Exactly. They just, I think everyone just thinks too much about it. And I was really guilty of that before I left. I was on it all the time trying to promote stuff and trying to get all the sponsorship and all. And it's just like, it's just so nice.
If anything, like I start to think sometimes less is more, like,
100%,
in a weird way, innit? Because
everyone says, you must have a life. You must be off doing decent stuff.
He's like, what's he up to now? I haven't seen him for like a while or whatever. And it was just posting every day. It's like, get the fuck off my feed.
It is, isn't it? You just, you got to think that. You think when people aren't posting, they're probably off doing something interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, like, until you do something hard, like even if it's like for someone who hasn't been out for a walk for like a year or whatever, if they go walk up a mountain, like, you don't feel like find yourself, do you, until you do something like that? I don't think.
Nah, definitely. It doesn't matter what you do, does it? Even if you like, run a mile or something, you feel like a new man, don't you?
You do. It's all comparable to where you're at, like, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's,
I said that all the way along. When I first started training, I couldn't row a mile. I was on the rowing machine in the gym. I was on the floor after rowing a mile. And you just think it seems like such a big thing back then, but like you just take it step by step, don't you? And by the time we were like a week out from leaving, talking about rowing across an ocean like it was going down the gym and having an hour in the gym. It's like you just get used to talking about it, and that thing, whatever you're doing, that thing just becomes like the norm, and you just end up talking about it more and more.
Yeah, especially when you're with a group of people who are doing it, because like you do naturally become like a product of your environment, don't you? If you bother with a load of people who are like savages, and like you're just going to consider that as normal, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think you kind of forget as well when you're going to talk to normal people, everyone's like, "Oh, I hear you're going away somewhere," and then you tell them what you're doing, and they're like, "That's mental." Like, you kind of forget that. You kind of just think, it's just what I'm going to do.
It's normal in the group of people I've been talking to for the last couple of weeks.
You realise the group of people you're talking to, I think there's only like 300 people in history who've ever done it. And you're just
really, that's awesome.
But you know all those people? Oh.
Yeah, that's all good.
So you're just like, it just becomes normal. But then you realise later on, like even now, I look back, it doesn't really feel like I've done anything. I just feel like I been on a little holiday.
Yeah.
But then when you think back, I look through the pictures and all, and it like starts to register. But everyone says, "Oh, I probably won't register for a year." You probably like.
Yeah, does it feel surreal to you at the minute?
Oh, 100%. I can't. Trying to picture being back on the boat, like even 2 days after getting to Antigua, I couldn't imagine being back on the boat. And to think there was still a lot of the fleet was still out there. Like I got in relatively early, so there's people still out there for another 3 weeks after I got in.
That's mental.
And I was just thinking, like I was going up at night, I was having a beer on the balcony, looking out to sea, and I was like, there's people still out there, like 500 miles out to sea, and it just seems mad. It just because you don't get the scale of it when you're out there, because you're only this far off the water. The rowing boats are tiny, so the most you can see is like 5 miles. So every day for like 50 days, all you see is 5 miles. It just feels like you're in a pond, really. You just feel like, I know everyone says across the pond, but it just feels like your bubble's just moving on a little bit. You never actually get the full scale of it. You look on the map and then you just like, it just looks like a little cartoon. And then until you get to Antigua and you stand up on the top of the cliff and you can see out over the ocean, you're like, oh yeah, it's quite far.
It's vast.
Or when you fly back, you take off and you're like, bloody hell. Yeah, it looks huge then. But yeah, you never actually grasp the scale. I don't think the human brain can grasp that much in one, like,
I think like
one hit.
There's like an attraction to doing anything like challenging like that, and I think it's like bred in us from like the conquerors and stuff going around in it and doing that sort of thing, like traveling from country to country on boat and stuff. I think like it must be something that gives you that drive like deep inside, innit?
They do say that, don't they?
Yeah.
People are designed for that kind of thing. Like people just want to push their limits. Like everyone says, where does it come from as an idea? And I'm like, I don't know. Like everyone thinks it's a stupid idea. It probably comes from sitting in the pub one day. Most ideas, don't it?
Too many beers.
Yeah, no, like a lot of ideas do come from that. But I think I thought a lot when I was out there. I was like, I'm out here with all these like modern technology, and I've got like GPS and stuff. Imagine being out there hundreds of years ago, and these guys are just looking on the horizon, thinking, "What if nothing ever turns up?" Like they don't know what they're going to.
Yeah.
They're just heading in the same direction.
They go right round to the place I started.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like you must think, oh, when are we going to come back to where we left? How big is the world? That's like proper adventure, isn't it? I was thinking like looking up at the stars, and the starry skies out there are absolutely mad. They're just like, it's so bright that you don't need a torch. Like the stars just light up the boat and all. I was just thinking, they used to navigate by the stars and a compass and just be heading in that direction.
That'd be mental, innit? What a feeling.
Yeah.
Like.
I just wonder if you're going to fall off the end, don't you?
How would they know as well? Like this kind of leads into one of my questions I wanted to ask is like, how did you cope with like nutrition and food? Did you keep it all on? Was it all on the boat with you, I guess?
Yeah. So, and that's like, you're just going from what people have done before, really. You're just going for, I had 80 days worth of food. I like kind of done, I hadn't done anywhere near as much research as I should have done, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff I researched, but I didn't research like, there's loads of stuff I should have done more research on. I hardly did any research on the weather. I thought, like, I'm going for the crossing. The weather's going to be what the weather's going to be. Like, as someone who works on the sea, I should have done a lot more research on that side of things. But I was also of the fact that, like, we've got a set date for leaving. Like, I'm going to pick my route, and there's nothing I can do about the weather that hits me on the way. I can try and take different courses around it, but, like, we had such a bad year for weather. And, like, everyone got hit by it at some point.
Yeah.
So, like, there's only so much you could do there. But, yeah, in terms of what nutrition to take and how much supplies of everything to take, we had a fairly good guide because people have done it before. It's not like you're doing it for the first time. You know roughly how long it's going to take. You know, if you push really hard, you can get there in under 60 days. You know, if you want to take your time a bit, you can still do it in less than 100. So I took like 80 days worth of food in case it all went tits up.
Yeah, I suppose that's a lot of food as well, is it, calories wise? Did you figure out how many calories a day? Or
yeah, I was trying to aim to maintain my weight. I was looking at probably 8,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
But trying to eat 8,000 calories a day in the heat and rowing constantly is I find it almost impossible.
Eating challenge rather than a rowing challenge.
That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ross Edgley says that, doesn't he? He said every endurance event is just an eating challenge with a bit of exercise thrown in.
Yeah, definitely.
But that was, that was a weird one, the nutrition, because you're like, you want to take stuff that you like, but it's really heavy. So I just ended up trying to go super lightweight because I wanted to do a fast crossing, and if I went back, that would be the first thing I'd change. I'd take some like nice stuff to drink. Like even if you didn't take much, if you had one every couple of days, you'd look forward to that for those 2 days. You'd be looking forward to that can of Coke.
Something to draw off of, like
because that's all you do. You're only eating, rowing, and sleeping, and like nothing else happens.
Let's make one of them enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. So you're eating these like dehydrated meals, you know, like the expedition packs that you take up the mountain, where you pour the water in. So they're quite good. Like you get curries and you get pastas and all sorts of stuff. And when you're in training, they all taste quite nice, but after 4 or 5 weeks of eating them, they all taste very similar, and you've just
20 curries and
you're just fed up of them. There's a lot of flavors, but like all the ones you started out like and you hate at the end, your taste change really quick. So I didn't take enough. Like if I went back, I'd probably take a load of protein shakes, stuff that's easy to get down with loads of calories. Because those days where I did pile more calories in, I just felt more energized, and like the days where it was really hot and there was no wind to cool you down, it was really hard to get the calories in then. And 2 weeks before the end, I'd obviously had a few too many coffees. I ran out of gas to heat my water up, so I was eating cold rations for the last couple of weeks. And that was like...
Being depleted is like a massive drain on the brain.
Yeah, just mentally, isn't it?
Yeah,
more than anything.
As much as physically, because you think like you just can't go anymore.
Yeah, you just
Convince
feel like...
yourself.
I tell you what, I've never slept as well as the hours that you sleep out there, though. You literally, as soon as you stop and you just lie on the deck, you're just like flat out of sleep until your alarm goes off. And there's a lot of like hallucinating that goes on when you're that tired. But
I bet. Was there any scary moments out there? Like, did you have any moments where you thought, I don't know if I'm going to make this? Or
I had a capsize. That was quite an interesting one. That was like everything always happened in the middle of the night when it's pitch black. No one ever tells you about an ocean crossing. You always see the pictures from the daytime, but it's dark more than it's light. And it's like, when it's dark, it's just a nightmare because you can't see what's coming. And everyone pictures being on an ocean that you get these big, like, rolly ocean swells, but you don't. You just get, like, really short swells all the time. And we noticed that when we sailed across as well, that it's just throwing you side to side all the time. And when it's dark, you can't see them coming. Yeah. At least in the daytime, you can kind of brace for the big ones. So it was just a bit of we didn't have any really, really rough stuff. I just had a bit of a freak wave it was one of the rougher days. I had a few like close calls where it spins you sideways and you like, they call it broaching, or like where you go like side on and kind of rail along the water a little bit and it all piles over the deck. But there was only one proper capsize where I went over a couple and then you could kind of feel the boat going up and up and up. And because you're facing backwards, everything's weird as well. You're always facing backwards. So you can see the back of the boat going up and you're looking up and up and up. And then I just remember seeing all the stars disappear, because it was just this black wave, and I was like, oh, shit.
I'm in.
It's going to happen. And then it's like, oh, no, I might make it. Because if you just roll over the top, you're fine. It's if the wave breaks on the top, because when they break, they go beyond vertical. And they just broke at the perfectly wrong time as the boat was up like this and just flipped me over upside down like that. And they come back up really quick. They're like self-righted. You just got to make sure you get all your hatches closed when it's rough. So it came back up pretty quick, but like 2 a.m. in the morning, I was knackered and just like
didn't need
sat
this
there
tonight.
for like 10 minutes, just like, oh, right. All I want to do is get in and just like ride it out in the cabin and just wrap up. But I was like, oh, if I do that, I'm just going to get paranoid. And so I just made myself get back on it and just carried on for the night. And I felt better straight away as soon as I started rowing again and just surfing down them. But that was probably the scariest moment. And in fact, the scariest moment was probably, it was about 3 weeks in. I pushed really, really hard and I got like a bit of a skin infection like on top of my back from I'd probably just being like sweating, and you're rowing back and forth, you're just rubbing your skin off all the time. And I felt really, really rough. I think I just had a bit of a underlying infection after just being run down. And that was like, I was about 1,000 miles in, and I was just like, oh, if I get really ill now, like, what can I do? I'm dead.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most I'd worried at any point. But then we took loads of meds with me, so I just took a little course of antibiotics and it all cleared up pretty quick. But like I felt really rough it would only last for like 2 days, but it just slows you right down and you just feel so vulnerable just because you're so far away from everything. Just like, you can talk to
if it
people on the
really
phone,
goes wrong, you're like,
yeah,
there's no coming back sort of thing.
Yeah. And you feel like, because I was doing it as part of an event, like you've got people on the shore to talk to, but there's no one out on the water. Like you are on your own. Because up until that point, you just think, oh, I've got a shore team I can ring if anything goes wrong. But then when anything does go wrong, you're like, oh, I really am like on my own in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's like trying to figure out what the point is when you would actually make that call, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah.
Without sounding like, oh yeah, I've got this little bit of a rash, and at what point does it turn into something more serious?
Exactly, yeah. Well, like, I didn't want to like get to the point of talking to like a doctor or anything like that. So I was just like, I'll just take a general course of antibiotics and it all cleared up. I always done like a bit of research about the common like problems that you face out there, and skin infections are like one of the main things.
Yeah.
Everyone said just take your antibiotics as soon as you can and try and combat it before it gets bad. There's one guy out there, he had like, how he made it to the other side, I don't know, he did a cracking job. He only came in like a week after me, but he'd had these like abscesses on him all the way across, on like massive on his leg, like this kind of size, just, and he still rode through it and just been scrubbing it every day with a nail brush to get all the infection out. Like,
That's a never give up attitude.
Oh, it was a hell of an attitude, and he knocked one of his teeth out, and he before he started, he had all these abscesses like on his bum from training, because he'd been training like 2 months beforehand, and he was in a mess. But yeah, fair play to him for finishing. I think he did best out of anyone, to be honest. But
yeah, it's all about your own struggles you go through.
Oh, definitely, and everyone has different struggles, don't they? The biggest thing they had this year, I didn't really register it because it didn't happen to me, but like 3 boats got hit by marlin.
All right, okay.
They like the first boat that got hit by a marlin are like 12, 15-foot fish. I didn't realize they were that big.
Yeah.
I had a couple alongside the boat, and I thought it was a shark or something. They were absolutely huge.
Does that shit you up when you see them there?
A little bit, but only because this boat, this was like, these boys were over halfway at the point. It was a 4-man team. They got hit by a marlin underneath the boat, and the spike came up between this guy's legs. The razor-sharp spike about this far between his legs. It hit him in the middle of the night. Said the whole boat lifted out the water, and then they woke up and he was like, shit. Yeah. It would have killed him, yeah. And that happened 3 times within like 24 hours.
Almost took his family jewels.
Yeah, imagine that. they are like razor. It looked like a sword. There's a picture of it online. I'll send you a picture.
That's insane.
It's mad, yeah.
Yeah, I bet there's literally so many like tangibles out there, and there's so many different things that could happen which you just can't ever prepare for.
Yeah, it's mad, and there's so many things you don't think of. One of the girl that she just got the world record. She's the youngest girl to ever do it. She's 21. She's done it on her own. She's off red. Like we hang out with her the whole time out in Tenerife. She's just like, she was drinking like 10 pints a night before she went. Smashing it, and she came within like 100 foot of a ship in the middle of the night that hadn't seen her. And they just cruised past in the middle of the night, and she's got this picture of this ship like bearing down on her. Oh, and it's just like, you think if it had hit her, no one would have ever heard from her again. No one would know what happened. They wouldn't have known they'd hit her. And then, mystery, wouldn't it? Like,
end of.
Yeah, you're in this tiny little boat, and these ships come past, and you know they can't see you. You just got a little tracker telling them you're there. But if your tracker stops working, if you're only running on solar panels, if you're cloudy for like 4 or 5 days and your batteries run dead, you're stuffed, really.
That's crazy, isn't it? It's mad. Like, it's mad though, because like with women, they must, I don't know what it is, they must be like so much more mentally strong than us. I don't know, because like you're saying about her setting the record, there was this woman runner, Courtney DeWalter. I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
I read about her.
It's mad. Like, she run that Moab 240 out in the desert, and I think she beat second place by like 5 hours or something.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, wasn't it? It was
like
huge.
How can you do something like that?
And they do say that, though, don't they? They say women have got like a lot more mental fortitude than men, but
she went blind, I think, for like a couple of hours running it. She had like someone like holding either side of her, so she knew where she was going. Like,
that's mad, isn't it? It's like, it's mad what your body can do, as well, isn't it? You think?
Yeah, we all leave too soon, don't we? Tend to like always quit too early.
Well, I think like sometimes you get off the sofa to like go and get a drink or something, and you're like, oh, I'm hurting, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm like, my phone's about to die. I can't be asked to go upstairs to get the charger.
Exactly that, yeah. And then the next thing, like, people are running 500 miles, isn't it? It's just like, the extremes are so far.
You can beat both people as well.
Oh, like, I was probably last night I was like, I just fancy a glass of water, and I was like, I can't be asked.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like, a few weeks back you were rowing the Atlantic.
Yeah, it's mad,
crazy,
isn't it? You just
we're all built with laziness in us, aren't we?
I think so,
We're all able to be it.
Oh, definitely. It's too easy to be lazy now, isn't it? Just,
life's full of comfort.
Back in the day when you had to go out and hunt for your food, you didn't have the option, did you? But now it's like everything's too easy.
You, I see you got your own beer out, did you? Was that like a...
Yeah, that was... the guys did it as a bit of a surprise while I was away. So they, when I got to the other side, they'd, so my girlfriend and the guy that was doing my social media stuff and all the coverage while I was away, they sent out a message saying, any local businesses, if there's any way you think you can help over the course of the row, then get in touch. And loads of people, we had like farmers selling manure and donating the money, and loads of things going on. And then these guys said, how do you fancy a signature beer? And I was like, I might be more excited about that than the row itself.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I see the bottle of it. It looks awesome.
Put it up for sale on Monday, and it sold out by Thursday morning. So we're just like, we're going to do another batch next week now and try.
I can't fault it, mate. How do you? Could I order like some? Or
I get you some now. I got some in the van.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll leave some with you.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Yeah.
But they did an awesome job. It tastes really good as well. I was like, we lucked into a good batch as well. He was like, they were all really happy with it, and
it's like good advertising as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and like 50p from every bottle now. They did it as like a massive favour to me. 50p from every bottle goes to the MS Society. So this week alone, it's done 600 quid on top of the. So yeah, we've just ticked over 40 grand online, and then I got all these other avenues. I think we just ticked over 60 grand in total, and then with all these extra things, I'm hoping we're not going to be far off the 100 grand, considering we didn't run any of the fundraising events that we had planned last year because of the COVID thing. It's going to be, it'd be a big surprise, really.
Oh, mate, it's great to see as well.
Beforehand, it was looking so unlikely. It was just, I was leaving, like, to head off on the challenge, and I was like, I've hardly raised anything. Like, I don't know what's happened. It just seemed to go so slow. I think everyone was having such a hard year last year, and I felt guilty asking any businesses for sponsorship because everyone was struggling.
Yeah.
So then it's it all came together, but so definitely a bit of luck involved as well. It was a lot of hard work, but there was a lot of luck involved to make it all happen. So.
Do you think going forward, like, charity is something you're always going to try and raise for now? Is that like?
I think so.
Passion for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I like the Get the Boys a Lift thing. I just because I've had my own mental health struggles. I like to try and, even if it's just like a couple of posts that people read and think, oh yeah, someone else going through it. It's like, it's a big thing if you can just, I kind of feel like when I write it down, it like gets out of me as well. It's like, it's quite therapeutic helping other people, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. That's kind of like, well, this is to a degree, innit? I
find exactly that. Yeah, it's just talking about it. It's just like,
people hear like your experience now, you saying about how you've struggled, and then you've gone on to do this amazing feat that people think is impossible.
Yeah.
Then gives them the inspiration to maybe think, well, if he can do it, like, what's stopping me, innit?
That's it. And I kind of wanted to do it. Everyone's like, a lot of people do it with a bit of funding to start off with, or like you've got a bit of money saved up and all. I wanted to do it without any personal money going into it to see if it's possible. And then just ended up getting quite lucky that a few big sponsors helped out. But like, it is possible. It takes a lot more work if you haven't got any money to go into it from your own personal, but it's more rewarding at the end. I think it's just it's like, it looks so daunting at the start, but if you take it like little chunk by chunk, anything's doable, really. It's
so what's next?
That's a good question, isn't it? I don't know now. I don't know.
Back.
yeah. Well, there's been a few ideas that I do. I think the problem with that, like 50 days is it's not too long, but the 2 years before is like a lot of your life to do, and it costs a lot of money. Like,
I imagine
me,
so.
I've got a lot to pay people back now from. I got to sell the boat, and a few things like that. Got a few things to do before I do anything else now, and I almost want to. Like, a few people have said this, don't want to rush into anything too quick because you don't want to do it in injustice. You feel like, to rush into doing like a marathon or something now, I'm kind of just saying, I've done the row. Yeah. Forget about that. I kind of want to just like let it sink in and put all the footage and stuff out from that before I do anything else, just so it doesn't get brushed under the carpet and like just think, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I want to give it credit for how much work went into it beforehand, really.
Did you get much footage whilst you were out there?
Got quite a lot, yeah. I started looking back through it. I've only gone through half it so far. Most of it's just me talking absolute bollocks to the camera.
Yeah. I bet you can make like a good like mini doc of it or something.
Hopefully, yeah. Quite a few people have wanted to kind of get hold of it and see.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I kind of want to go through it and get rid of any dodgy stuff. That's
the best stuff, though. That'll probably make for the best watching.
Yeah, you think so? Probably. Really, I'll have a bloopers reel. But it was. Yeah, I think next. I don't know. We talked about a few things. There's another. I made really good friends with one of the other like solo rowers. We've talked about a few challenges. The Pacific was banded about there a little bit, but that's another level altogether. The Pacific's a lot bigger.
How far would that be?
You can do it two ways. You can either do it America to Hawaii, it's actually shorter than the Atlantic, but it's a much tougher route. Or you can do the whole Pacific, which is 8,000 miles.
Wow.
Which is like, I think the quickest anyone's ever done it is 300 days.
Really?
So it's a bit different to 50, isn't it? But I think, I shouldn't say that that's even an idea yet because everyone will kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, best part of a year, like, as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think you have to have some serious funding for that to then. Like, a year is a lot longer than 50 days, isn't it? 50 days, you can kind of take a bit of a chunk away from work, but a year is a very different thing.
Yeah, they might be looking at you funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do a year as well. I know, like, you can do anything, can't you, when you break it down, but it's it seems a lot more daunting. I don't know. I think, want
to think about it right now.
No, and I think like I did the whole time I was out there, I was saying, "Oh bloody hell, I won't do this again."
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, isn't it? Every time you're doing anything like that, you're running up a mountain or anything, the whole time you're doing it, you're like, "This is horrible."
Yeah.
And then when you get to the other end, you're like, "It's all right, wasn't it?"
Yeah, you get to the bottom and you go, "I want to do that again."
Yeah. What do they call it? Secondary fun, don't they?
I don't know.
It's a type of fun, apparently.
It's all on the back end of it. Like,
like the first type of fun is like going to the pub and all the like the good stuff, and then secondary fun's like the whole time through it, you're like, this is horrendous. And then at the end, you're like, yeah, do that again.
Yeah, I always say, like, I think true joy comes from like hard work and then having the good feeling. And the good feeling, all the stuff like going to the pub and drinking and everything, you get the good feeling first, but then you get the bad feeling, don't you? It's like you either get it one way or the other, innit? Yeah. One's true and one's fake, I think.
That's a good way to think of it, definitely. Yeah, I haven't thought of it like that. But that, you're right there. Yeah, that feeling afterwards, like, even if you're running a mile when you're unfit, is like, the feeling afterwards is awesome, isn't it? You just
definitely. It's not about, like we said earlier, it's not about what you've done compared to anyone else. It's all compared to what you've done compared to you, isn't it? It's all
and
a personal
it's like,
battle.
It's like anything you do. It's like, you got to try and embrace the whole thing, haven't you? Instead of the end result, you got to embrace like the...
Yeah, living in the moment's the hardest thing to do,
it is, isn't it? Yeah, you got to try and embrace the journey as you go through it. I was really guilty of that for this whole thing. I was just like, the whole way through thinking, I'm not enjoying this. Yeah. And I was just like, right, you just need to embrace it for what it is instead of worry about what's going to happen next. I'm always guilty of thinking, what am I going to do after this? Instead of thinking, you're doing this now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you don't know how many days you got left here. So you just
when I get back, I'll do this. When I do it, yeah. It's just, we're like wired like that, aren't we? It's,
I think so.
We're searching for that next little dopamine hit, and
that is it, isn't it?
It's
and
pretty
it's just,
much.
There's so many things out there to do. Everything's so accessible now. Well, not at the moment, but
it will be hopefully. Yeah.
But yeah, the world is so accessible, isn't it? It's like you can kind of just do anything you want, but it's trying to figure out.
I think it's kind of been a tough time for so many people, and I've been like fortunate. I've got a steady job. Yeah. I'm still doing this, which I love, but it's kind of helped me like find myself in a way, because like it's kind of that bit of like isolation, like you probably had on the boat to a minuscule level, but you don't have so many outside distractions. Do you know what I mean? You're not like filling your time with going to the pub, going out for food, doing this, rushing around here and there. Yeah. You got time to sit with yourself and try and figure out who you are, haven't you?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people have found it really positive, haven't they? I know loads of people have really, really struggled, and I completely understand the struggle side of it, but it's how you deal with the negative things, isn't it? Yeah. And that's the hardest bit, is how you, instead of sitting at home and thinking, oh, I wish I was at the pub, thinking, oh, like I use this time to do something. Yeah. But I know that's the hardest thing. It's easy to say, isn't it, when you're looking from the outside?
I feel like I know exactly what I need to do when I feel. I've had low days. Like I said, I put on weight again. Yeah. And you're like, I know what to do. It's just doing it. Oh. Everyone knows what to do. Like I feel like everyone knows what to do, but
saying that, I think only in these last couple of years, all the the shit stuff that happened along the way. Before that, I don't know if I did know what to do to make myself feel better. Since then, I'm like, I got in such a low place. I was like, I need to figure out what makes me feel better. So like, running is one of my main things. Like, I always used to hate running, but it's probably one of the instant quick fix. I know if I go for a run, I'll definitely feel better after.
Yeah,
I hate most of it.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's nothing like, if I go to the gym, I don't get quite the same feeling. Like I know if I go if I'm feeling really, really shit, try and force myself to go for a run. There's some days you just sit inside in there and you think, I'll run in the morning. Yeah,
that runner's high is definitely real, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Sometimes I go out, especially last year, like the fitter I was getting, it was like amazing. Do you know what I mean? You'd be out, especially when the sun's shining, you do like 6-7 miles or whatever. And like, you may not lift your head up for ages because you're just in the zone. And then you look up and you're like, oh my God, all the scenery around me. You just like have like a euphoric moment.
Yeah, it's being outside as well, isn't it? But no, it's right there, isn't it? Yeah. And it is that being outside. You I think the fresh air side of things, I think, like, I'm lucky where I live. I can go out the house and be like, run around the village. It's not a busy place. And like, I do really feel for people that are in these flats in the city and like on proper, we're on proper lockdown, but it's not the same being on proper lockdown out here, is it? Out in the countryside, it's a lot different to being in London or somewhere.
Go out and do more than your hours worth of exercise. You're not going to.
Yeah, you don't see anyone.
You're not going to see anyone here. No, literally like 200 meters from here on the base of the mountain, and bang, straight up. Awesome.
Yeah, so I think like being away and like being isolated, and the lockdown as well. Really, the whole thing has just made me kind of appreciate life for what it is, instead of like always wanting more. I'm always really guilty of thinking, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want this, I want that. And like, you just don't need anything. Like, you've got a few mates around, or even if you haven't, even if you're on your own and you've got food and somewhere nice to go for a little run or whatever, just the simple things are just so... Yeah.
Well, I see it all the time. Like, I see it in people who are chasing money because they think it's going to make them happy, but they're actually making themselves unhappy by chasing the money. So it's like that toss-up, isn't it? It's like, you can't... I don't feel like... I come to like the realization lately, you can't live your life like thinking I'll be happy when. You just need to try and be happy now.
Yeah, that's exactly right, isn't it? You can't think I'll be happy when I've done this, when I've done that, when I've done this.
I've lived my life like that. once this gets to this point, then I'll be happy. And then it happens, and you're like, why aren't I happy?
Yeah. Oh, so right, and that's probably where this whole challenge came from. I've just done. It was like, I need to do something that's going to make me happy. Like, I need something to focus on. I need something to do. And then it didn't take me long when I was out there. It took me like 3 weeks, maybe, before one day I was like, I didn't need to do this. Like, it took me doing it to realize I didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
It was like, I felt like I was always looking for something to do. And it achieved its purpose because it like helped me mentally, and I feel like a new man getting back from it.
Right, yeah.
But I didn't need to do it. Like, nothing in life has like changed since I've been back, just my attitude. Like, and that's the only thing. Like,
it's probably fast tracked you to that place.
I think that's it. Yeah,
so.
I think it's fast tracked me, and it's like, although like the hard slog of it is like, just, it does make you appreciate you don't need much, do you? And when I was out there, I was like, all I've got is food and water and nothing else. Like, my music ran out, all my entertainment ran out. I just didn't have anything. I was like, I'm pretty happy. Like, you just don't need the whole, it's so complicated here, isn't it? There's just so much going on all the time. It's like, yeah, I'd love to go back to that life of just going out hunting every day. And,
it does sound really appealing, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. Like, I say to my missus all the time, like, why we got this mortgage like noose around our necks or whatever. Like, I'd love to just buy a field and have a caravan. Like, do you know what I mean? I can see like why the travellers do it. Do you know what I mean? It looks, sounds awesome, doesn't it?
Yeah. I keep thinking that. I keep seeing these people, like selling their houses and moving out to a beach somewhere, or buying like an old
tiny house or something.
Like, old boat and sailing off around the world or whatever they're doing. I've just got a couple of friends now who've like sold up, and everyone thinks they're mad. They had like a really nice house and like the whole life that everyone thinks is the perfect life, and they were like, why not just go around the world? And they've just bought this like old boat. They spent a couple of years doing it up just in their own time on like a super tight budget, and then they've just disappeared, and they're living the absolute dream now. It's you can do whatever, can't you? You just got to do it instead of looking back 10 years time and going, I wish I'd done that.
I've kind of got to the place where I don't look at people. I feel like, it's crazy, but I'm like crazy in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not like confining yourself to this mold that we've been told is the right person to be in it.
Yeah, I listened to loads of stuff while I was out there, like podcasts and all like this, just people saying, like, you don't have to follow what everyone else thinks you should be doing. You just go and do what you want.
Yeah, and sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, if it makes you happy, it doesn't really matter what you do, does it? It's like,
I agree, yeah.
As long as it's legal-ish.
Yeah, so many people though, innit? Like, I've had this conversation, I think, most times someone's come on who's done something which is outside of the norm.
Yeah.
They've always said, like, people stop you. Like, for me, I didn't want to do this initially because I was worried what, like, the people around you are going to think. And it's like, it's fucking irrelevant. Like,
it is, isn't it? Yeah. And then you do it, and everyone's like, oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. They, like, respect you for doing it, actually,
like,
which...
Oh, so all that time that I was worried about what everyone was thinking, as soon as you do it, they're like, oh, yeah, fair play.
Yeah. So it's not even what they were thinking, it's what you were thinking about what they were thinking, isn't it? So it's... Yeah, it's mind games.
Yeah, it is, definitely. I remember saying this idea, I was like, saying to people, I really want to do a challenge before I knew what I wanted to do, and everyone's like, why? Why do you want to do that? Like, why can't you be happy with what you got? And I'm like, I am, but like, I just got a feeling I want to do something. And they're like, you should just be happy. And I'm like, it's not that simple, is it?
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to do something, you just got to make it happen, haven't you? But it's easy to say that once it's happened. Through the process, I'd be saying, don't do it.
Yeah.
But when you look back, then it's easy to see where all the positives and negatives are, and it's hindsight. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Well, mad respect, mate, and thanks for coming in.
No, lovely to chat.
Definitely. And if ever any challenges on the future, it'd be cool to come back and have a chat. So
I'll dream up something. Equally. Yeah, I'll think of something in the next couple of months. I'm ready for a couple.
I can tell. I reckon it's happening. It's happening already.
I promised everyone it won't be 6 months before I say I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Do you want to plug your social medias and where they can donate?
Yeah. So we're everything's still running at the moment. So it's Instagram is Atlantic Dragon, Facebook's Atlantic Dragon, and then we've got the beer we're selling on Harbour Brewery, which is a Tenby brewery. Everyone knows Tenby.
Awesome.
And then we've got a GoFundMe page, which is that's just ticked over 40 grand. So that's if anyone still wants to donate, we're going to keep it going for as long as we can, really, and try and plug a few more beers, a few more t-shirts, a few more things like that, and probably wrap it up once they've sold the boat and done a few events. We'll wrap it all up and see what the total is in a few months' time. Then.
Class, mate. Yeah, congratulations as well.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome, and I'll tag everything in the description so people will find their way there. And Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, I look forward to coming back now.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Cheers.
Experience Real Podcast.